Yeah. All right, is my microphone on here? My microphone is on. Good. Can you hear me? You can hear me. And yeah, if you want to grab your muffin and coffee and have a seat, and we will begin right away. Those of you who are needing child care, you can head over to the preschool room there where we've got a few teenagers who are taking care of the kids. Again, we want everybody to be able to make use of the town hall. Now, Steve is wandering around with a box of 3x5 cards and some pens. And if you'd like to write down a question, we'll have both. You can either do it via the microphone, or you can do it, if you prefer, on a 3x5 card. You can just flag Steve down. Just print your name and print your question so that Linda and Stefan and I can read what you have, and we'll try and address as many questions as we can in our town hall. Now, obviously, if we get a lot of questions, we may not be able to get to all of them. Some of the questions may also be better answered kind of offline if it's more a dialogue kind of question, or you have a very specific question, whether around finances or something that maybe I need to look an answer to if you want to know whatever, a certain detailed question. But we will answer all the questions, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's here in the public forum.
Okay, so it's great to have everybody. This is an informal meeting, so you can get up and move around, go have another muffin. This is not a church service, right? This is our family, and so we just want to spend a few minutes, about 40 minutes. So I'll be very brief. Believe me, I'm not known for being brief, but my name is Lyndon. If you don't know me, I'm part of the leadership team. I'm actually serving as chair of the team this year. Started my second term. Woo, is right, hey? Starting my second term. It's a highly paid position, so I'm excited about that. But it's the eternal benefits. The eternal benefits, thanks. But it is a great privilege to serve on this team. And I just want to have all the LT members that are here. Some had to go to the airport and such, but if you're here, stand quickly, would you? Leadership team members? Where are there's Tim, Stephanie, there's a few of us here. Okay, Sandeep, okay. So some had to leave early, but just be reminded that if you do have questions about Gracepoint or any of the things we talk about, the LT is at your disposal. We're always available for questions. Now, I'd like to have all the Gracepoint staff, please stand. Okay, Steve, you're already standing. If you're staff, Tracy, where's everybody? All our staff members, okay, they're around here somewhere. Gord is sick. All right.
Chris is up in Peachland. His sister's moving to Montreal.
Okay, so we had a few no-shows there for good reasons, though.
Yeah, that's right.
So staff as well always is available to answer your questions. And I would also say if you ever need prayer, if you want prayer for healing or for whatever it is that comes up in your life, the LT is always available to pray with you. So just call the church office, call Tracy here. She'll organize us and we'll meet here at the church and we can pray for you. So that's very important. We have 4 new LT members, Tim, Kaylee, Sandeep, and Stephanie. So we're glad to have you folks on the team. Rick had sent an email out to all of us, I think around February 3rd. Does everybody get our emails? Everybody get our emails? Okay, not everybody's telling the truth there. Most do, some don't. But it was a great letter because it outlined a lot of the things, the activities that the church has been involved in over the last 6 months to a year. And I would encourage you to go back and read that. And you alluded to something.
Man, I don't even remember what I had for supper last night, let alone an email from February 3rd. Oh, this guy's good.
I know. I read all your letters, Rick. I do, trust me.
I got to write more.
But we want to be very transparent with you here, and in a couple of minutes, our treasurer, Stefan, here will take us through the financials and just show us what's happened there. I would say, Rick, you had mentioned the quads and the triads and that. It's very interesting because it's not a Bible study, like we don't take a passage of scripture, and dialogue about that. We get together and we just talk about what God is doing in our lives. And I would encourage you, if you're not part of a quad or a triad or one of those intimate groups like that, hey, get involved in it. Do some mentorship and be mentored. You know, I'm 165 years old, so those young guys in our group are in their 20s. And it's very interesting for me to remember back what my concerns were in my 20s and to hear from them. So it's a great thing. Ron loved it today. I look forward to coming to your house for dinner, too, by the way. Affinity Groups, I think that's such a great thing for Gracepoint to put forward opportunities for you to get involved and to hook up some of the people in a small group and to talk about spiritual things. And Mark and I are going to start an old car group or a collector car group once he gets his car inspected. Come on now, get going, get that thing running. And so around July when the weather's a bit better, we don't, you know, we're fair weather drivers, us collector guys, right? But these groups are just such a great idea, and I'll give you a ride one day in my big old sled.
Okay.
We'll go and crack a couple of donuts in the parking lot. Anyway, it's great to have those groups starting up, and it's our desire to really connect Grace Pointers with each other. Just in my final thoughts here, one thing I like about the leadership team is we're always going through a book. And these are godly people that write about church in our society, and it's a wacky society. Would you not agree? There's a lot of stuff. Rick, you mentioned some of the things today. It's a crazy world out there, and we need input from godly leaders. So we've been going through this book called Future Church, and it's just been really excellent. There's a million quotes I could read out of that. Here's another one, is a building discipling culture. It's just excellent, and we've really enjoyed it. I will read you a quote out of this, and it says this. It's just a quick one. It says, no one accidentally creates disciples. Discipleship is an intentional venture. And so we want to be intentional with the groups, with the triads, the quads, the D groups, and all the good things that we're planning and putting forward. So that's about it for me. If you have those questions, Steve is right there, as you said, Rick. He's got the cards, and Kaylee too has some cards. If you'd like to write a question, just run it up to me right away, and we'll get to our Q&A time, right?
Yep. No, that sounds
Okay.
Sounds good, Lyndon. Yes, thank you. I forgot about that building discipling
great book.
culture. Yes.
I've been rereading it
Yeah,
again.
even because I was talking this morning about culture, right? And we want to
Yeah.
create this disciple-making culture. When I asked Lyndon yesterday, I said, what would you like me to share? We talked about how there's always questions around community dinner, so why don't I address that from the start? So, of course, we've got a long, rich history with community dinner here for decades that we've done the ministry on Sunday nights, and now, of course, COVID, shifted that, as it did so many other things in our society and in our church ministry, and so we shifted to a Wednesday lunch giveaway that we've been doing the last 2 years, and all kinds of people have been involved in that. Some on Tuesdays purchasing the groceries, some on Wednesdays coming in here and making the meals, and it's been great. We've been serving about 95 meals that we've been giving away as takeaway meals. Now that the weather's getting a little warmer, so this past Wednesday, we put some tables and chairs out, and our goal with the warmer weather is to create community, because we care about food insecurity, but we also care about people. As I said, our vision is people. And one of the things that has definitely been missed is not only the meals on Sunday night, but the community aspect of meeting around a round table and gathering with others. And so our plan is to continue to do that. Last summer it was great. We had many people just eating here in the parking lot, sitting on the grass out there. It was a beautiful, beautiful scene. And like I said, food and connection. And so our plan is to relaunch the Sunday night community dinner in September. And so we are in the process of connecting with our team captains, and because we have the kitchen ministry, and we want to see at least 8 teams in place for us to launch the dinner. So as of today, we're at about 5 teams. So we still need to come up with 3 additional teams. So it could be something that your discipleship group would do, and so the commitment would be, every 8 weeks to come here from 2 to 7 p.m. to prepare a meal, or maybe as an individual you want to volunteer, and we're gonna put some additional teams together. But we want to make sure we've got at least 8 teams, so nobody's serving too often in that rotation, because it is a big time commitment to do that. And so we've got that the kitchen side, and then the dining room side of the ministry. We've got a steering committee that is going to oversee that, and it's Marv Harris, Kelly Beasley, Barry Hickman, Archie and Sue, Ron Marshall, and Brenda Kateris, and that is our team. Now, Pastor Jenna has been our community dinner pastor, and she is going on mat leave in July, and so we're excited for her as she's having a baby.
I was just going to say, does that mean she's having a baby?
Yes, she's having a baby. Yes, yeah. So that is good news. But it means all of us will have to, get a little more involved and engaged in community dinner. And so if you want to learn a little more, you can, in terms of being involved, you can reach out to Pastor Jenna. Like I said, she's here for a couple more months. And come to the Raise Your Spoon. That was mentioned today, May 14th, that's going to happen. You'll get to meet Dorothea if you come. She's the one who gave birth to the community dinner, 20 plus years ago. And she continues to have a huge vision for it. We had gathered together and talked about, what Raise Your Spoon will look like this year. And we talked about, doing a barbecue, hot dog, hamburger. And then she came into the meeting. She was a couple minutes late, and she just kind of elevated it up. And it was awesome, just the passion that she has. So that's going to be happening May 14th at noon here. And so it's an opportunity not only just to give, like Megan mentioned in the slide, but you get to hear some stories of people who are part of the community dinner. I get to meet some of our community dinner congregants, and just hear more about the dinner. Get a chance to win some door prizes. That's always fun with Raise Your Spoon. So that's the community dinner aspect. With our staff, probably the most significant change, I would say, Lyndon, in this last year has been Chris shifting his role to become the family ministries pastor, and so with Johnny and Lou working underneath him. And we've got a great group of staff, as you know, and there's lots I could say. But they have worked hard and pivoted in this time period, and it's been great. And I've been concerned about their soul care, and their well-being. This one of the latest stats is that 40% of people who work in churches are considering quitting, and because of the great resignation that's happening in society, as we hear about. And so we want to continue to monitor our well-being as a staff. I think that's been a highlight, for us. Also, just thinking of the disaster team that launched in 2021, and Ken Hastings has overseen that. And thanks those of you who have, we were able to give to Samaritan's Purse and to Mennonite Disaster Services, and many of us went out to help there out in Abbotsford. So that's been a good thing. The launch of the Affinity Groups, as you mentioned, and Stefan, you're kind of part of an Affinity Group, soccer. Yeah. So how's our team doing?
Well, maybe we don't want to talk about that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
We've got a good group of. It's a good time to connect, and it's great to be back on the soccer field. It's been a couple of years, but let's just say we're not going to be moving up in a division this year.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Good. Okay. What else? I mentioned in the message around we want to do a church-wide retreat. That's been the first. We're talking about that now as a staff and as a leadership team. This would be a launch of something new. And I'm just looking for Stephanie. Where is she? So there she is. Yeah, Stephanie. Everybody knows Stephanie Dick, our vice chair. If you're interested to be part of the steering committee to head that up, you can talk to Stephanie. How many of you does that kind of excite? The idea of let's get away for a weekend, go out to maybe Camp Stillwood, and spend some time together, campfires, and we'll hopefully have that. I'd say probably next spring. Count on something doing something like that. So Stephanie and I will begin working on that. And like I said, you can approach her. I mean, there's lots more I could say, but why don't I turn it over to you, Stefan? Before I do that, maybe Ukraine. People are, interested in Ukraine, right? Like I said, I pray every Saturday night, and of course other times, but specifically Saturday night. And just want to thank Grace Pointers for your giving, that we were able to send money. And we have that image from Chris of Pastor Oleski. Pastor Chris has met Pastor Oleski in the Ukraine. There's a picture there of him as he's put together this van and delivering food. And they've of course have had to pivot in a very substantial way. And so I want to thank you, Grace Pointers, for your generosity, because it went to Multiply, who could directly send this money to Pastor Oleski, Pastor Max, and the others that are working there on the front lines. So, Stefan, why don't I turn it over to you?
Now we get to the exciting part.
You want to sit here?
No, I'm good.
You're fine?
You're okay?
I'm good. I
Don't
got
drop that thing.
I hope not. I've got good balance.
Okay.
Yeah, so as Rick and Lyndon have said, my name is Stefan. If you haven't met me, I've been on the LT for 5 years and been the treasurer at the church here for 5 years. And so I'm going to run through, whoops, now I lost my notes. I'm going to run through just really high level some of the finances from the past and where we are after this first quarter moving forward, just sort of give you a high level overview. If you do have more questions, by all means ask them, or you can always send an email or contact me. I know some of you like to get right into the nitty gritty of the details, but I don't want to bog everybody down with the details, so I'll just sort of keep it high level. And I really want to focus on the giving and the giving trends of the past couple of years and sort of the giving trends of 2022 and as we move forward. So if we go to the next slide, you'll just see our current financial situation from the past 2 years. On the right, you'll see 2020, and on the left, 2021. And as you may remember, at Christmas, with 1 week to go, we were about 85,000 short of meeting our target. But as you'll see from that first line on the left, we actually hit our target and actually exceeded it by $2,000. So we are quite thankful for that. And all things considered, during COVID in the past 2 years, we've exceeded our budget, or sort of exceeded our revenue both years, and actually been ahead on our budget. We did make some adjustments from 2020 to 2021. We did reduce our budget by $100,000, and 50,000 of that was made in reducing outreach, and another 50,000 in capital costs and the facility expenditures, because we weren't using this building full time. The cost did go down, so we were able to keep it a little bit tighter. But as you can see, we've been extremely blessed over the past 2 years and ended up cash positive for both those years. The formal financial statements should be ready sometime in the next month, and that'll go out in an email once they're ready. And if you want a copy of them and get into the details, you just send Tracy a request, and those will be made available to you. So if you go to the next slide, in terms of general giving, this is just sort of what's happened pre-COVID, during COVID, and right now. So in 2019, we were just around that $1 million mark. And then in 2020, our first year of COVID, we only dropped about 32,000. And part of that was because we had started off the year so strong. And then 2021, we anticipated a $100,000 drop, and we were there. We were right around 852. So moving forward into this year, as a business and finance committee, we wanted to move forward hopeful that things were going to get back to normal, that we were going to start meeting again. And so we increased our budget slightly by 50,000, trying to move back to that $1 million mark and getting back to a regular, normal environment that we were experiencing pre-COVID. So I'll just go through some of the changes that happened in terms of our giving. If you go to the next slide. And these are for people that give regularly over $1,000 a year. And from the slide, you can see about 27 people gave less, which was a loss of about 84,000. 13 gave more, which increased 44,000. 33 stayed the same. There were 30 that stopped giving for some reasons, and then there were 28 new givers. So as you can see, although we've met our budget, there's been a lot of change that has been happening within the Gracepointers and how our giving is. But, you know, at our last LT meeting, we were discussing about what the culture of a Gracepointer is, and as you heard earlier, one of the terms that came up is generous. And you guys are extremely generous, and we have a lot to be thankful for. And really, it's the first thing is we're thankful that Gracepoint is filled with generous people. You guys open up your wallets, and we're very thankful for that. And because of your generosity, we've achieved balanced budgets for the past 2 years, and we still have a healthy contingency over $500,000. Gracepoint has about 187 people or families that contribute financially, of which we have a solid base of about 109 regular monthly givers. Monthly giving is important to the church as it creates a more stable cash flow environment for the church to operate on a regular basis. So we're really thankful for those people that contribute on a monthly basis. In terms of the mortgage, not only have we been paying our mortgage down, but when interest rate dropped over the past few years, we took a conservative approach and kept our monthly payments the same. This allowed us to actually pay down our mortgage quicker. And now moving forward, this allows us to absorb an interest rate hike, which I'm sure you all know is going to be happening sometime soon. The conference reviews our mortgage once a year, every June, so we'll have a good idea of what change is coming shortly in the next month or two. Having said all this, as we move forward, we need to be cautious of the headwinds everyone is facing. And when I say caution, there's a lot of inflationary pressures. I'm sure you hear about it on the radio. There's rising prices, operational costs are going to be higher, our mortgage rates may go up. There's uncertainty in the world with the war in Ukraine. And in terms of where we're at in this first quarter of 2022, we're about $27,000 behind after 3 months in terms of our budgeted giving. As you can see from the slide, if you look at 2020, at the end of quarter one, we were at 227. Our average giving per week was about 17,400. In 2021, we were down to 180 at about 13,800 average per week. And this year, we're about $1,600 below that, so we're around the 12,225 mark. So as you can see, the giving has been down over the past couple of years, but we're hoping that we've sort of plateaued and we're going to start moving back up as the church starts filling up again and we start having regular people coming on a Sunday. It's not a time to panic, but it's definitely a concern that we're considering because we thought that maybe at the beginning of the year the opposite would have happened. But I'm also not surprised with all that's going on in the world and the uncertainty, and there just seems to be a lot of fear in the world at the moment. But with full capacity services allowed again and people coming back, we're hoping for and budgeting for a reversal in these giving trends. I don't think anyone could have predicted the environment we'd be in post-COVID, but having said this, I'm going to be reaching out to the Finance Committee in the next month to have a meeting so we can discuss and monitor this trend closely and determine some options in the event that this trend continues. I'm also in the process of finalizing the implications of our insurance claim. For some of you that don't know, we had a flood. It's been, what has it been, 2 years now?
It has
and we're
been,
still in the process of finalizing what the final cost is on that. But we should have some answers in the coming months, and I'll convey that to the congregation in an email because the details can be quite complicated and it's too much to get into in a forum like this. Having said all this, I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that God will provide, just like he did at Christmas when we were 85,000 short. And on a positive note, we do have some things that are going to help us with our revenue. One of them, Wind and Tide's lease is coming up, and they're due for an increase, so that will help with some extra revenue. And we've recently entered into a contract with a developer across the street to rent some of the parking stalls during the week because the parking lot's empty. And they're willing to pay for that, so that should add an extra $750 to $1,000 per month in extra revenue. So I truly believe God is good, and I'm hopeful that we will make it through the year just like we have through the past years of COVID. But I do appreciate if everyone would pray about our finances as we move forward.
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah. It was a good report, wasn't it?
It was good, yeah.
I thought he'd be a little more negative, but yeah,
It's always hard. It's hard to do.
you work very hard on this stuff, and I know Paul does also, and Tracy, of course, in the office, and so yeah, appreciate all the work you do, and yeah, kind of like the Canucks, we won't make the playoffs this year.
We're not making the playoffs.
We're not making the playoffs. Yeah.
Is it 100%, or we mathematically still have a chance?
3%.
Yeah, 3%.
Why don't we open it up to Q&A? Kaylee, do you mind coming and grabbing Lyndon's microphone there? And Steve is wandering around with the 3x5 cards. And if you have a question, you can either write it down on the card, put your first name, and put the question. Likewise, if you want to use the microphone, just state your first name and a question. A question came through on the chat here from Deb. It says, is there an official list of affinity groups and contact information? If so, how can I access it? Well, thank you, Deb, for that question. And as you know, the affinity groups are just launching now. Lyndon, you just mentioned about you and Mark. We'll start with the car group. But once we have sort of leaders in place for all of the groups, and we're, of course, beginning with the outdoor groups, we'll make that actually, I think that's a good idea, make that complete list available with the leaders of the groups. And so people have that. And then, in the fall, we'll be launching some of the indoor groups. So, yeah, I'd say, make sure that all of you are on the email database that Lyndon so carefully reads, that, you get our Monday emails, and our Friday email. The Friday email has to do with the Sunday gathering, but our Monday email especially, we'll be listing some of those affinity groups, and we will, have a listing there for you. Okay.
Hello, my name is Bert. I'm not well known here because I'm fairly a new attender and I'm not a member. But I do have a question. I was impressed to see that there is a contingency fund, so I'm assuming that means that you've got cash on hand that you would use. And how much was it? Was it 50 or 500? I couldn't.
Sorry, it's over 500. It's probably around 550, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
So
yeah,
that's something that we started building up probably about 5 years ago. We didn't have a healthy contingency at that time, and we've been able to build it up. And part of it was because we know there's expenses, like the roof is eventually going to have to be replaced, but we've also been trying to incorporate a lot of the capital expenditures on the building in our budget so that we're not actually dipping into the contingency, and so that it's there more in case of an emergency.
The reason I asked or raised that issue, in my home church we have what's a much smaller church and has a much smaller contingency, but we felt that with inflation being the way it was, it's actually eating away at the contingency, and the interest rate that is earned is lower than the inflation rate. So without anyone doing anything, the contingency is growing smaller. And so we took a decision to purchase hard assets. In our case, we bought physical gold in order to, it doesn't increase in value because any increase in value means it is reflected in the fact that the dollar's worth less. It's a constant, but we thought at least that way we could keep a constant. And so I just wondered if that had been a consideration at all.
Well, we haven't up to this point considered something like that because we've been in such a low interest environment where it hasn't been a concern, but as you know, the world is changing and interest rates are going up, and it's something we probably will have to talk about as a business and finance committee. But I appreciate that point because you're right. If interest rates really start going up, our contingency is actually getting smaller even though it's staying the same. So it's a good point.
Thank you, Bert, for that question. Any other questions? There's Kaylee's got the microphone there.
Yeah, I'm Steve. Johnny had a great, when he was going to talk to you today, Rick, about, about the whole youth thing. So I've got a little 10-year-old, and are we doing anything for our youth, like to try to, things are changing, but like regular church doesn't really appeal to a lot of teens. Have you guys thought more about that?
Yeah, well, like I said, Johnny mentioned it in his report, and we certainly will be talking more about that. And as you know, we send the youth grade 5 to 8 downstairs. They've been with Reuben, and they're, doing youth church in a sense down there. And, we'll continue to do things like that, because you're right, the culture is changing and the needs of kids are changing, and we want to continue to address that. I mean, Chris and I have ongoing conversations about this, how we can best meet the needs and help them to live as faithful followers of Jesus Christ. And we want to include that in the church gathering here too. So it's not just like, oh, I got to endure what happens upstairs because I finally get to go downstairs, to be with my peers and what that means. And I know Johnny has some ideas around that. I don't want to yet say what those are. He put them in the forum for me, and we will discuss some of those, in terms of the incorporation of youth in our services to a greater extent. So we'll see. Stay tuned on that one, Steve. Yeah, it is today, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Sean, will we be running a VBA this summer? I know that that's been something in the past for Gracepoint that has brought a lot of new families into the church. And with the absence of the kids camp, the VBA kids camp that Gracepoint used to host pretty spectacularly year over year, has that been brought up as a consideration?
Yeah, we'll be running at least one kids camp here this summer. It'll be a sports camp. And it'll be Johnny, correct me on this, it's a multi-sports camp if I'm wrong, right? It's a multi-sports camp that we will be doing one of the weeks in July. So that is happening here in our building. And we also got notice on Friday that we had been approved by the government for a summer intern for a child and youth worker, and that could also give us a impetus to run another camp. So we've got at least one that's going, and it's actually going to be our conversation Tuesday at staff meeting. So again, stay tuned on that, Sean, and because you're right, we want to reach out to the families in the neighborhood, particularly new families that have moved in across the street, as you've seen, all the building that's gone up there, and continue to be good news to the community, definitely. Okay, final call for questions there, either on a piece of paper or here in the YouTube chat here. If anybody has one last question before I wrap it up. I think we're sticking to our 40 minutes here, aren't we? Yeah, wow. This could be dangerous. What are we at, 32 minutes?
33 minutes.
Okay, so it gives me 7 minutes to, no.
preach.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no other question, why don't we put the last slide up on the screen there, Greg? And this is a scene also from the Ukraine, and this is from Pastor Max and Anya's church, and some of you may remember them. I had interviewed them here on the stage, and Max sent this text to Pastor Chris from our church. Hi, Chris. We are fine. Located in Zap, it's relatively safe. Has not been bombed. Praise God. Just think about that, eh? Anya and I are coming to New Hope Center every day to keep serving the refugees together with the New Hope team. We hosted more than 80 people from Mariupol, Metropole, and other places in just 2 weeks of shelter operation. Please pray for physical and emotional strength as we continue to serve. Pray that Zap does not get taken over by the Russians and we can keep being a safe place for many people. It's like, wow, it just hits you, right? And you see a church there that has been transformed to, being a dormitory for refugees, And we as a church family, we've done a lot of pivoting these last 2 years, right? Online, and we have, people here watching online now on our YouTube channel, and I think we have about 350 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We have our app, and I think we have 400 users of our app. And so we do digital ministry as well as in-person ministry. I mean, last Sunday was great, 289 people that we had here for the Easter Sunday celebration, and we've got to continue to adapt, to what is. And like I said, our staff have done a great job in terms of, kids ministry is pretty hard to do online, right? Youth ministry is pretty tough to do online. I mean, some days after youth group, I'd ask Johnny or Chris, and hey, what was it like last night? And chaos, because, whatever, people are at home and, their screen is black and you're not sure if they're there kind of thing. And, but we've pivoted, we've adapted these last 2 years, and we're going to continue to press into what God has for us, right? And whether we've got to set up, if eventually, whatever, a whole slew of refugees from the Ukraine come here and we have to turn this gymnasium into a dormitory, we'll do that, right, Lyndon? We will serve in Jesus' name. Or if some of us need to open our homes, and spare bedrooms that we may have, or if, I was asked this last week by a pastor here in the community about MCC and sponsoring Ukrainian refugees, and I said, well, stay tuned, At the moment, they're just coping with, what I just read there in terms of how they're trying to serve people. But again, could be opportunities. God is in control, and God is the one we continue to follow, right? And He is going to lead us as a church. So I just thank you, church family. You've been such a faithful group of people, and whether it's generosity, whether it's discipleship, in so many different areas. And I look forward to the future together with you. So why don't we close in prayer? And that wasn't 7 minutes, was it? So what do I got, a minute left there? Okay, a minute to pray. And if you do have other questions you want to ask one-on-one, the three of us will stay up at the front here, or any of the other LT members. God, I just want to thank you for your faithfulness. You are a great God whom we serve. We love you and want to continue to grow in love for you, for one another, for our neighbors, the people you put into our circle, for our world, including our brothers and sisters over there in the Ukraine, and that we can continue to be your hands and feet for such a time as this. Thank you, Lord Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen.